Hello everyone and welcome to the new series of Truth Shots with Kapil. Narratives and Neurons. We are going to have some amazing guests over this series. We are going to have some wonderful conversations and some bare truths. First of all, I have with me Mr. Sundeep Singh. Sundeep, is a very accomplished person. I will talk about his professional experiences and everything later. But let me first say Sundeep is the only guy that I know who did 100 half marathons in 100 days. I can't even imagine how it would have been. I call my short trips from Delhi to Gurgaon cycling as big ones that I used to do twice or thrice a week, which also was almost 5 years back. But that for me, while he's a very accomplished person in his professional background and his life and everything, but for me that stands way ahead of everything else. Anyway, he also holds an engineering degree from IIT Delhi. He holds an MBA degree from IIM Kozhikode, so he's an IIT-IIM person. He has been working with Accenture for a long time. I think almost 18 years of experience in the corporate environment. He currently is heading their ESG and transformation strategy. He is a strong proponent of living a purpose-led life. In fact, the 100 marathons he did were not part of his hobby. They were actually part of a purpose wherein he was trying to raise awareness for air pollution. And we will talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. He is a frequent lecturer, guest lecturer at IITs, at IIMs, and many other business schools in India. His debut novel, Chasing the Horizon, brought out powerful life lessons critical to succeed in today's competitive world, through the journey of a 16-year-old IIT aspirant. Currently, Sundeep is working on his second book that crystallizes powerful life lessons he has acquired through over a decade of running marathons, lessons that he believes no one taught him at IIT and IIM. I'm sure they will be very valuable for everybody. I'm certainly looking forward to reading something that can give me those insights. So, welcome Sundeep.
Thank you so much.
I would love if you can say a couple of words for our audience.
First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm looking forward to the discussion as well. You have been very kind in the way you have introduced myself. And I would love to talk about all of what you said. Running half marathons, running for a cause, all of this is very close to my heart. So I'm excitedly looking forward to the discussion.
Hey, absolutely. So let us straight away dive into the questions. And as I said, for me, the biggest thing that I noticed when I read about you was the 100-day, 100 marathon. So let me start with that.
100-day, 100 half marathons.
100 half marathon, I'm sorry. What drives a man to run 2100 kilometers against smog, indifference, and physical exhaustion?
So first of all, the distance is very close to my heart, 2110 kilometers, right?
2110 kilometers.
Because a half marathon is 21.1 kilometers. Yes. So 2110 kilometers. But I think to your point, what drives somebody to be able to do something like this? I think it's the desire to make a difference. I strongly believe that we all who live in North India, we talk about air pollution, come Diwali and all that smog and all that stuff kind of kicks in. We all have a point of view on what the government should be doing, what the policymakers should be doing, what people at large should be doing. But we don't necessarily have a point of view on what I need to be doing to address it. When all is said and done, much more is said than done.
Sure.
That's the way I see it. And that's what I wanted to change. The whole idea was that let's shake the tree. I felt like it is one of those problems that cannot be addressed necessarily just by talking, the sweet talk, sitting in the boardrooms or sitting in the drawing rooms kind of a thing. One really needs to take the bull by its horn, shake the tree, and then start to send the messages. So the idea was do something seemingly insane, which will grab people's attention. In that window of attention, start to send the messages. So it was more of a social media campaign coupled with those runnings that I was doing all around. And the idea was that every weekend I would actually post a social media post kind of a thing, wherein I would give them an update on what the week has been like, how did I navigate those 7 half marathons in that week. And when I have their attention, start to push through some of the messages in terms of what they could be doing to make a difference. Sure. So that was the idea. Having done it, I don't think I had thought through it well enough. Because somebody who had not even done a couple of consecutive half marathons to sign up on social media one fine day to say that from tomorrow onwards, I'm going to do 100 half marathons in 100 days, 5th of March to 12th of June, exactly 100 days, was a massive commitment.
Wow.
If I were to go back to 4th of March, I would rethink. I'm not saying I won't do it, but I would rethink the way I would have done it in that time.
Sure.
So yeah, that's what it was. It was more of a desire to make a difference, basically.
Sure. And that also in the middle of summer.
Middle of summer. And that happened. I mean, the idea struck me on 3rd March, 5th March it started. So I still recall, I mean, just a small anecdote. We were actually in the car. I had pulled the brake at a red light, and we were heading out. Me and my wife were heading out for a coffee date, like a usual weekend coffee date. And I dropped the bomb. I said, from tomorrow onwards, I'm running 100 half marathons in 100 days. And she was like, I could sense a lot of turbulence in the way she kind of processed that information. And she was like, I know you well enough, but maybe this needs to be thought through better. That's how it was.
So was it disbelief, or was it, he's on another crazy trip now?
It was a bit of disbelief as well, because I have done a lot of such crazy things, but to sign up for something like this and tell her that I have already put it on social media. I announced it to the world before I told her.
Before you told her.
She was taken aback. She was like, there is a lot of planning that goes into doing something like this. So she asked me, what happens when you're traveling? I said, I'll run during my travel. She said, what happens if you get injured? I said, I'll run with my injuries. She said, what happens if you are at a client site? I said, I'll run at my client site. So that's how it happened.
That's the kind of commitment you would require to pull off something like this.
I hope so. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this was done as to cause awareness on the impact of air pollution.
Correct.
So can you talk a little bit more with our audience about the silent impact of air pollution for all of us?
Absolutely. See, there are some impacts which are very evident, very apparent. Air pollution impacts your lungs. Air pollution impacts your respiratory health. That's a no-brainer, right? I mean, that's something that we all are aware of. Come the Diwali time, come the stubble burning period of the year, suddenly there is a surge in respiratory diseases and the kind of patients showing up at the hospital. So there is data to back it up. So that's no-brainer. To me, the bigger impact is the indirect impact that it causes. The kind of mood swings that you will start to experience without even realizing what is causing that trigger. So people, especially in the teenage group, in the young age group, they start to become more cranky. They will start to get more fidgety, more anxious. All of that is something to do with the kind of air they are breathing in.
Sure.
Think about air which has an AQI of 500, while the guidance from the health authorities is that for a healthy person to operate and think and creatively, carry himself or herself, the range has to be definitely in double digits. We are massively over the limit, right? And it starts to manifest. Your cognitive abilities start to go down, your onset of depression, anxiety, all of those things start to pick up in a very big way. And the worst is that you don't even realize what is causing that. Because it's not a bullet that has been hit into your chest and you die, right? It is a silent death. I was alarmed with the kind of statistics which were coming up, in terms of what breathing a daily air for the whole day, means in terms of a comparison. I read that it's equivalent to, smoking 49 cigarettes in a day. If that is the kind of intake that you're giving to your body, then just God bless us. Yeah, it is alarming. And that's what I feel is the bigger worry. Your productivity levels start to go down, your anxiety, your depressions, your mood swings, your behavior, your reaction, your road rage. Suddenly a honking behind you and you will be like reacting to it.
Sure.
It is not the honk that is troubling you. It is the oxygen level in your body that is triggering that kind of a response. So my worry and concern is that it is much bigger than what is made out to be. It is not just a respiratory issue is the concern. And that's what I wanted to change.
Sure.
Of course, these things don't change overnight, but the process started for me and I'm very happy about that.
Sure. And it in a lot lot of ways, it would put you in the harm's way also, right?
Yeah,
you were running a half marathon every day in this Delhi environment.
I can't even imagine. I mean, going back to those days, now that you ask it, on the 68th day, I remember very clearly, my foot had become so swollen. It had aspirations of becoming like a balloon. So it was so big because of the toll it was taking every single day that a normal size shoe won't fit in.
Sure.
It might sound funny, but I was wearing UK 13 in my left foot and UK 10 in my right foot because one of them was swollen, and I realized it doesn't work like that.
Right.
And then I just said, let it be. I'll run without the shoe. So I started running barefoot. But there was a lot of personal sacrifice or personal fatigue and exhaustion, and it wasn't easy. Those 100 days were not easy.
The only comparison I can think of is I once watched this documentary called as Supersize Me. It was a documentary that was done on fast food. there was a very healthy guy. He first went to went to the doctor, got all his vitals, all his statistics, everything checked, and then he said every day, morning, lunch, evening, I will have a McDonald's meal. He specifically chose McDonald's because that was the most easily available one. He didn't stop his life. He was still doing work, but he would have a McDonald's meal. And he said, every time the waiter will ask me, the server will ask me, should I supersize it? I will supersize it.
Okay.
And I can't leave food. So
That's not enough.
I may end up eating and vomiting, but I have to finish the meal every time I get it. He did it for, I think, 22 days. He was going to go for 30 days. He did it for 22 days. He went back to the doctor and the doctor said, you're going to die.
Oh God.
Really, your writers are so off the chart right now. You're going to die.
Yeah.
In fact, and this is, I guess, the impact that you would be looking for. That documentary became so powerful that McDonald's specifically introduced salads in its menu for the first time following that documentary.
Correct.
And it was a huge change, right? I mean, now if you go to fast food, you would see this whole plethora of salad choices,
Correct.
whole plethora of healthy foods, of course, along with fast food that would be there.
Yeah.
I guess that's the kind of impact that such crazy in a good sense, but such crazy activities, such crazy thoughts will cause.
Yeah, these are big challenges, right? And conventional wisdom is not going to solve these things, is my opinion. So,
are you happy with the social media impact that you brought, or do you think there is a? I mean, from a running perspective, you did everything, right?
Yeah.
But from a social media perspective, you think there
if I were to do it again, I think I would rethink that. The outreach, the amplification,
the media
making sure that the
associations,
messages go out in the right way. I'm pretty sure I could have done much more on that.
Yeah.
Right. So it was very heavily running focused, partly because I'm a runner, but that could have been better in my opinion.
Right.
And to be fair to all the people around me and all the well-wishers and the supporters, they did their bit as well.
Right.
As I said, there is a mini documentary that ACC Siemens had shot, which is like a 3-minute journey of those 100 days and what was the broader objective and the purpose behind that kind of a mission. So I got all the support, but to your point, was it enough? I think I could have done more if I had only thought about it in a better way.
Sure, and that's how kids. That is something that needs to go out.
Yeah.
That is something that needs to be talked about by everyone. Is how it will start to make a lot more impact.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me actually from running, let me move to the other side and talk about your work in ESGs. I mean, you have been in some ways a sustainability guy for a very long time.
Correct.
When we were, first if you can give your views on ESGs and sustainability, because I come from for the last many years, I've been running a mental wellness business.
Yeah.
And for me, the ESGs and mental wellness plays very well together.
Yeah.
So if you can actually first talk about ESGs and then we can talk a little bit more about that.
So see, I have been in this space for almost about 15 years now. I ventured into the ESG space way back in 2010. Apparently, I was the first member of our Accenture India practice who ventured into that space. I don't know, it was some calling or was it a gut feel, but something was calling and I felt like I want to be in that space. So I raised the hand even without knowing what exactly I'm signing up for, like I always do. And since then, I have seen the way this space has evolved. I mean, for a layman, it is environment, social and governance, something which is to do with responsible business. But there is a lot that lays underneath when you think about what exactly it is, beyond the abbreviations and the full forms, what exactly does it mean? Now, if you ask me exactly what is it that you need to think about from an ESG perspective, there are two things, right? So you do the right things and you do things right.
Sure.
This is about doing the right things.
Okay.
ESG is really about doing the right things. And when you think about what qualifies as right, that is where it starts to become tricky. What might be right from your perspective might not necessarily be right from somebody else's perspective.
Sure.
And that is where a company needs to think beyond its immediate shareholders and take a broader community view or a systems view when they are thinking about defining what is the right thing to do. And that is never easy.
Sure.
Right? Because there are conflicts of interest. There are shareholder aspirations that you need to adhere to. There are share price movements that will respond or react to the way you define your initiatives and actions.
Sure.
And that is where the gray area comes in. There could be instances when you know that this is the right thing to do, but you also believe that if you go into that, at least in the short to medium term, it's not going to give you profits or returns. Then how do you start to think about really, defining your plan of action and your agenda and your investments and all of that. So that's where it is. Now, thinking about the gamut of things which lay underneath, right? That's where this E, S, and G starts to give you some guiding principles in terms of what are the things that we're thinking about. In my opinion, the way I think about ESG is it's, as I said, responsible business. And that comes with respect to any kind of resource that you are going to be deploying. At the end of the day, what is it? A business takes in resources and inputs, it processes it, it gives out the outputs which are getting consumed by the consumers. That's at a very layman level, that's what businesses are in the process of doing, right? Now, if you're thinking about ESG lens, on top of it, essentially what it means is you need to be responsible about any type of resource, be it your raw materials, be it your commodities, be it your people. And I don't like to use the word people and resources together, but still, just to convey the point, be it your people, how can you be responsible in terms of ensuring that they are not getting burnt out, they are not getting mental issues, they are not getting stressed out, they have longevity of careers, all of that is underneath. And that's where environment is more to do with the environment, as the name suggests, air, water, and all the natural resources. Social has to do more with people. How do you ensure that you have happy and vibrant cultures and, not just people in your organization, but even the communities, consumers, customers, broader citizens in the country. How are you more responsible towards that? And governance is more to do with how you run your business ethically. How can you be more transparent? How can you be more fair in the way you are organizing yourselves to be able to deliver on the promise of doing good for the communities and the environment that you operate in? So I know it's a long answer, and partly because that's the nature of the space. It is not a simple kind of a tick mark wherein you say that this is what I need to do and this is a deliverable that comes out of it. ESG is more of a construct, and what lays underneath is very broad. So, and I've seen the space evolve as well. I mean, the way we used to think about ESG back in the day, let's say in 2011, 2012, versus how organizations used to think about ESG, let's say in 2016, versus how that evolved by the time we were in 2020s, and how we think about it today, very different. Very different.
Okay. And specifically when we talk about ESG in India, how do you see the progression? And more importantly, what more do you think, first from a government standpoint, and second from a large organizational standpoint, that needs to happen?
So I'll be very brutally honest in this. I think a lot of companies still think about ESG as an obligation, as a tick mark which needs to be done, because in the absence of them being able to demonstrate progress on ESG, their real business struggles. So that's the way a lot of companies are thinking about it. Not all, but a lot of companies are thinking about it like that. Now, when that is the mindset, typically you start to chase metrics. You start to chase optics and not ethics. So you will be more content with ensuring that you have the right kind of ratings, you have the right kind of credible organizations backing you up when they do the audits and all that, which comes out in your reports and all of that stuff, which typically is referred to as greenwashing in the business world, which is to say that optics start to matter more than the basics. And that to me is still a big question mark. Not just in India, I think more broadly as well, but a little more in India.
A little more in India.
And the other thing that I feel like people don't necessarily think right in the Indian context in particular is that ESG or sustainability is not the same as philanthropy. Right? So doling out money in the form of donations and all of that is not ESG. That is philanthropy.
That's philanthropy.
The two might be somewhat intertwined, but they are not the same.
Assuming the philanthropy money you are throwing out is actually going in the direction of creating a sustainable environment. That's the assumption in the first place anyway.
But even if it is going in the right place, that is not necessarily ESG. Right? That's more of charity. And I'm not saying it in a wrong way. That is, it has its own place. But the way Indian companies think about philanthropy and ESG and sustainability is so tightly intertwined that sometimes you start to use one as as a replacement for the other. They all have their own place, but they are not the same.
I'm sure, being part of this space, you would have seen this huge change that happened between 2014 to 2018, where with Swachh Bharat, a huge chunk of corporate CSR was actually diverted towards Swachh Bharat. While you wouldn't call it complete ESG, but there was probably more awareness or more work that was being done in that regards during that time.
Absolutely, and I think that's the big change I have seen as well. Think of it like an envelope which has been expanding. So earlier it was an envelope which was just encompassing the organization, and all the efforts were focused around that. How does a particular company become more ESG centric? How does a particular company drive its sustainability? I think over the years what I've seen is that the realization has come in that to make a systemic change, it is not going to suffice to be just focusing on organizations. It entails a much bigger behavioral change. If you're talking about communities at large, if you're talking about macro environment that you operate in, if you're talking about challenges like air pollution, for example, there is just so much a company can do about it. A much bigger, let's say 100x, 1000x kind of an impact can be brought in if the entire nation were to unite and start to fight that, combat that. The citizens become more responsible, the communities become more responsible, they start to take ownership. So coming back to the point around what are the shifts I'm seeing, I think government has also realized that this entire Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, for example, has a lot of elements which really relate to how you are driving behavioral changes in the masses. And it is not so much about how a particular organization operating in a particular city is going to change. So that to me is a big shift. That to me is really a good positive shift, which can actually deliver impact in the medium to long term.
Sure. And while I was doing my research on ESG as well as looking at the various SDGs, and as I said earlier, I work in the mental health space. So one of the things that we did last year, actually last year, more, we did kind of a study looking at the various SDGs, looking at their impact, both in the sense of how do they impact as well as in the sense of what is their impact on mental health.
Yeah.
And what we very interestingly saw is out of the 17 SDGs, 8 of them are directly correlated to each other, and 5 of them have are basically mental health if you would look at them differently in a different context. And in that sense, that's an area that we consider as very powerful, something where a lot of work needs to happen, and something where we don't see enough going on right now. And while I understand the entire ESG space struggles, but one of my beefs in what is going on right now is there is a lot of work that happens in the ESG space from call it a society environment perspective. I'm saying a lot comparatively, right? I'm sure you will say, well, where is the lot of work that happens? But comparatively, there is a lot of work that happens. But in terms of human mental wellness, you are right about charity, which goes mostly towards hunger. Okay. There are initiatives that are going on in terms of education and healthcare. But from a pure mental wellness perspective, and we at my company, we consider mental health as probably the biggest pandemic the world has ever seen.
Of course.
So in that sense, we see there is a lot more that needs to be happen in that space and need to become a key part of any organization's ESG space. And that's why we are watching this space very closely as well. Looking at when will there be, in India, when will there be a larger ESG implementation? When will it become part of some compliances? When will it become part of, the organizational quarterly reporting and everything?
So, and you're right. I think mental well-being is one of those topics which has still not gained the prominence that it needs. And part of the reason is because it is not still clearly understood what it means. Things which are evident optically are easier to understand. Things which are inside the brain are possibly not so easy to decipher, at least for the larger masses who are not well versed with the topic. And what doesn't get recognized as a challenge is something that doesn't get addressed. So it's a classic case of, ignorance is a bliss kind of thing. At least not a lot of people are thinking about it the way it should be thought about.
And I always look at some of these and I blame Bollywood for it. Mental wellness from a Bollywood perspective is this mother who lost her memory and is looking at, the roof all day, or this guy who, went crazy and is killing everybody. Mental wellness has never really been talked about as this, conundrum that a human would face. Or as this, kind of an amalgamation of all different kinds of emotions that would put you in a certain situation that would mean you require support. And one of the things that I always ask people, and let me actually ask you as well. One of the things that I always ask people is, assuming I'm able to give you better mental health, how much more productive do you think you would be?
Well, difficult to take a quantitative stab at it, but I just feel like if I were to draw some analogy basis what I have seen in my life. So what you see me right now is not what I was about 11 years back. So I'll be very specific. Today I weigh 72 kgs. In 2013, I used to weigh 95 kgs.
Okay.
And I was also dealing with some kind of mental health challenges, and I don't feel uncomfortable talking about it. What it took me to do my work at that time versus what it takes me to do work today
Now.
is very different.
Sure.
My role has evolved, my commitments have evolved, my responsibilities have evolved, but I still have time to do a lot more than what my clients demand.
Sure.
I still make it a point to be in the gym every day. I still make it a point to play cricket with my son every day. I still make it a point to watch movies and be with my parents and all of that stuff with my wife. And so it's not like my work has diminished or anything. It is just because there are 24 hours in a day, but what I do with those hours has changed. And partly because I'm fitter, I'm more aware of my thoughts, my beliefs. For the first time, I'm willing to acknowledge my thoughts the way they need to be acknowledged, right? 2013 was a time when I would suppress them because of the belief that sharing these thoughts is going to put me in a bad light.
Sure.
Because this is a sign of a weak person. Today, I don't take shame in admitting my vulnerabilities. In fact, the first book that I have published, Chasing the Horizon, was actually an attempt to highlight my vulnerabilities. So my son has always seen me as a star performer who went to the IITs and IIMs and made it to managing director and runs half marathons and ultra marathons and whatnot and wins medals and all that. I want him to know that this is what he's seeing today. But I have been far more vulnerable and far more susceptible to confusions in my mind and the threats and insecurities that were plaguing my mindset, and it's okay. I want him to know that it's okay to have all of that. I want him to know that I, like many others, have bunked classes to watch Sachin Tendulkar matches. There was a time when I did not attend a single class in a coaching institute for 3 months without my parents realizing it, because I was like, I need to be playing in that time.
Sure.
This is the time. If I don't play today, when will I play?
Sure.
And when I came back, when I realized that, okay, this is not going to continue for long, I was struggling in a big way.
Sure.
Right? So I want him to understand that when something like that happens, you are bound to have your fair share of depression. You are supposed to have your fair share of vulnerabilities, insecurities, and threats. But it's okay. And it's okay to not to be okay is the message I want to leave him with.
And I'm sure even now, in the middle of all the success, in the middle of doing everything right, in the middle of having your physical fitness the way you do, I'm sure every once in a while you will still go down that sinkhole and then bring yourself back up.
We are not machinery, right?
Absolutely.
We are not robots.
Absolutely.
Wherein you put in an algorithm, you put in a code, and the robot kind of diligently, religiously follows the instructions. We are humans. We have gray areas in our mind. We have frameworks that we use to make sense of things happening around us. We have the ability to think and decision. But at the same time, things are not black and white in reality. There will invariably be times when you are trapped in that gray zone. Sometimes the force of attraction from the black side will be more. Sometimes the force of attraction from the white side will be more. And that is where the vulnerabilities, the indecisiveness, all of that starts to creep in. Now, what's the way to deal with it? We can't turn robots. That is for sure. But what we can do is just acknowledge that this is normal. Right? This is normal. It's okay to not have a definitive view. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel vulnerable. It's okay to feel a void. As long as you can raise the hand and acknowledge your true feelings and be willing to do something about it, you're okay. But the definition of okay is not to not have those feelings. And that is what a lot of perceptions are. A lot of people still feel that it is weak to cry as a man. No, it is not. It is perfectly okay to cry as a man. I have shed my tears when I need to. It is okay to raise a hand and say that I am really feeling down and out today. I need help. It is okay. I mean, we, as I said, are not robots. And goes back to the point you were making about Bollywood. A lot of those perceptions have crept in because of that macho kind of a depiction of what a real man is supposed to be. That is the definition of a real man in Bollywood, not in life at large.
So I consider Bollywood as probably the most anti-feminist, the most anti-liberal, kind of an environment there could ever be. While it has probably done a lot of good to the country, but
I think now it is beginning to change a little bit. But if you look back at several years, I think
in fact, my first book started with talking about Naya Daur as the one movie that stopped the Naya Daur coming into India because it was so against any kind of progress. It was so in favor of let us keep everything the way it is and let's not do anything from a tech or from any other perspective. So from here, I mean, you having gone through the journey that you have, currently I see a lot of youth, and using the word youth, but it's actually everyone, doing and struggling with a lot of addiction. Any thoughts from your side on that? I know you are currently on a 21-day program to not have coffee, even though you are not, I wouldn't call you as somebody in addiction, but you're doing that experiment. So any thoughts from you on the addiction going on in the youth, and what more needs to be done there?
Yeah, sure. So I think few things. First of all, what really qualifies as an addiction? One needs to be clear about that. A lot of times when you talk about addiction, we think about substance addiction, which is fine, which is a major part of addiction. That's okay. But addiction, in my opinion, extends far beyond
Absolutely.
just substance addiction. It could be addiction to screen, it could be addiction to scrolling, it could be addiction to, just being with someone all the time. There could be multiple shapes and forms in which addictions can come in. Now, how do you address that, or how do you get around that? The key thing to recognize in that is that addiction by itself is not the problem. It is a symptom. Addiction is just an observation based behavior which lets you know that there is something wrong, but that behavior itself is not wrong. That behavior is just a manifestation. Now what is wrong is what you need to then start to turn your attention to. Typically, in my opinion, addiction comes in when there is some kind of a pain, there is some kind of a void, there is some kind of a gap, there is something which makes you unhappy. Absence of something is what you are dealing with. And to replace that, or to find a way around that, is when you start to fill that space with something which becomes like a repetitive habit. Now, for example, if somebody is not very well connected and not getting the social needs served well enough in the real world, is when you would possibly start to see that the scrolling, mindless scrolling and mindless social media activity might start to surge. Now, that surge is not the problem. The problem is that the person is not getting his or her fair share of being connected, because we are all social animals. So that's the problem that needs to be solved, right? There are times when somebody is going through a depression wherein, somebody is not getting that fair share of, let's say, gratification in the form of what comes with appreciation, applause, acknowledgement in the form of doing well in academics or professional life. So that starts to again creep in a gap which is in the form of a void or absence of that acclaim, appreciation, being recognized, being visible, being seen. So absence of all of that, because of whatever reasons, is a gap that you are dealing with. And that is where you will start getting addicted to some kind of substance addiction, for example, which gives you a temporary relief. So I think it is important to understand that, first of all, that what is addiction and what is causing it, and the fact that addiction by itself is not the problem, it is just a symptom. Those are the first few thoughts that come to mind. And then comes the maturity that one needs to have, that you need to be looking inward and not around you to be able to solve for this. You need to be looking inward and first of all raise the hand and acknowledge that I am getting addicted to something. Second, don't try to solve for it by yourself. We all want to believe and would love to believe that we are like the superhumans who have the ability to solve it all. But the reality is that we are a small, inconsequential cog in the wheel.
Absolutely.
Right? It's a much bigger ecosystem. It's a much bigger play in the larger scheme of things. You are not even a speck in the entire universe. So it's okay to understand that you have your massive limitations, and it's okay to then ask for help. Go to somebody professional who has seen it all, who has the experience of dealing with these things, and get some professional advice if the need be. Go to somebody who you know cares for you. I'm sure everybody has somebody. If nothing else, go to your parents. Most likely they will care for you. I mean, they will certainly care for you. I would want to believe. You need to make sure that you, as I said, first acknowledge the challenge, understand the gravity of the situation, understand that it is okay to be not able to solve it for yourself, and then have the willingness to actually ask for help when you need to.
So that's one of the things that we really were seeing when I started looking at addiction. I saw three fundamental problems. One problem was there is addiction solution, but that addiction solution comes when and I jokingly say this, जब किसी दारूबाज का liver इतना fatty हो जाए that the doctor says you drink and you die, is when people go for any sort of de-addiction. The second problem we saw was either there are government-owned de-addiction programs which are you can't even go in, or there are private ones which you can't even go in because they are exorbitantly expensive. And third, there is so much of one stigma And second, addiction problems are only solved at the level of substance use. How about the various kinds of, I mean, we are in the middle of IPL season right now. 10% of India is busy every night gambling away.
Correct.
Who's going to solve the problem for that? So anyway, that's where we have been actually working on bringing in a lot of technology through which we can create a solution for addiction. We call it Prarambh Life as the program that we run. But that's, I think, one of the key fundamentals, not just for the youth, but I think across the society that would need support. And our intention is, again, taking the alcohol example, our intention is just then, the first day, somebody swears by his mother, by his wife, or by his kid, I won't drink from now onwards, is the day the person should get the addiction, not the day when the person is about to just pop because the liver has become so fatty, or because the addiction habit has become so egregious that it's almost impossible to leave at that point of time. So let me come back to ESGs only. So if I strip away all the jargon, what does ESG become for an organization?
Responsible business. I would just summarize it in responsible business. Be mindful of the impact you are creating for the broader society at large. So we always talk about return to shareholders. Think of it as return to stakeholders. Shareholders, your investors are just one part of the equation, but there are other variables in the equation that you have probably conveniently ignored in the past. Can't afford to do that anymore.
So I was in this ESG conference a few months back, and one of the speakers, so the very prominent author on ESG itself, and one question that I asked him is, I said, if I look at ESG, if I look at everything, from an environment perspective, from a social perspective, from a governance perspective, to me it seems like common sense. I mean, to me it seems like if I am a business person and I have a slightly longish view. So let me give you an example. Many years back, you can call it my ESG activity. I said, I am not going to participate in this bribery business that happens in our country. I'm a startup owner. I'm not going to do anything wrong. I will pay my taxes on time. I will not bribe anybody to get any business and all that. And when I did that, many people said, so it's it's your ethics, it will pull business away from you. And over years, I've been saying that since day one, over years, that has become the reason why my business has flourished. Many brand owners come to me and they say, we are giving it to you because you are going to do justice to it. You're not going to be swayed by this, that and the other. You're actually going to perform. You're actually going to deliver us what you want to. So to me, the entire concept of ESG, the entire concept of looking at whether it is environment or social or governance is to create this larger kind of persona or larger understanding of what your business requirements are, and kind of aligning those together. If, for example, if I'm and I was talking to somebody in automobile segment recently, he said, I run a oil and gas business. I can't do air pollution control from that perspective. Are there other larger initiatives that I can do from an ESG perspective? Yes, I can. Can I participate in education? Can I participate in healthcare? Can I participate in more cleanliness? Can I participate in other activities? Yeah, absolutely I can. But if somebody is to come and say, hey, you need to participate in reducing the amount of pollution, well, I will create better standards. But my oil and gas business is going to remain my oil and gas business. So I think it's more about creating that alignment. More about commonsensically looking at your business and seeing where is it that you can make the best contribution.
So I'll tell you something. See, there are multiple dimensions on which you evaluate any decision. The commonest dimension that has been used in the past is return on invested capital. Profits, ROIC, they're all different avatars of the same metric in a way. That's what typically drives business. Now, the challenge comes in when you ignore the timelines part of it. And I'll relate it back to the example that you just gave in, right? If you are going to make a difference or some kind of a deviation from how you have been running your business in the past, it will possibly give returns in the long term, but the next day might not look as rosy as it is today. If you stop, doing some of those unethical things, for instance, maybe tomorrow or day after might not look very easy for you because there is going to be some kind of retaliation or whatever. Your business might go down for all practical purposes in the short term. But if you do it consistently over time, and that is a part of doing the right thing, If you do it consistently over time, you will build your reputation, your credibility, and that will start to create a natural pull for you, and it will start to attract more business for you. And in the medium to long term, you again benefit. Now, the point being that in the long term, if you play a sustainable game, if you are really invested in the business for long term, doing the right thing will never hurt you.
Sure.
That's point number one.
Absolutely.
It might hurt you the next day. It might hurt you the following day. It might hurt you for a week or a month or a year as well. But in the long run, if you're doing the right thing, it will never hurt you.
It's going to create the right
And that is basically a manifestation of a simple human behavior, right? We are all creatures of desires. We are all hedonistic. We are all people who crave for instant gratification. And that reflects in everything, in the way we think about our business, in the way we think about our relationships, in the way we think about anything and everything under the sun. The point is, the day you convince yourself that doing the right thing will never hurt, not cheating in exams, not lying, all of these simple motherhood statements that we have heard in the past, they're all there for a reason. I mean, lying is again a classic example. You can lie. It makes your life easy in the short term. You don't have to confront somebody. But in the long term, it will not serve you well.
Absolutely.
You be truthful, be blunt. In the short term, you might burn a few bridges. You might be perceived as somebody who is rude. But if you do that consistently over time, it will create a personality which people admire, and that will create a natural pull.
It will become a natural part of what people look at you for.
It's your credibility certificate.
Absolutely.
Think about the oil and gas business, for example, fossil fuel based example. That's the trickiest, if you ask me, across all industries, because this is a business which is in the process of extracting resources and dealing with fossil fuels and all that, which is obviously going to cause pollution. Now, there is no easy fix for that. You can't just walk away from your business, but I have seen companies in the Middle East who are already investing in slowly but surely downsizing this business and investing in renewable energy. So you are still staying in the energy business, but consciously you're trying to make a shift towards renewable part of your energy portfolio. That is not going to serve you well tomorrow or day after, because as I said, all of these investments and the right things take time to materialize. But if you do it consistently, they will. Trust me, if they don't do it today, by the way, 7 or 8 years down the line, they'll be out of business.
They have to.
They will be out of business because fossil fuel is going to be a thing of past.
Absolutely.
So it's not a choice between doing it or not doing it. It's a choice of existence. It's an existential crisis.
So Sundeep, while we are having this conversation, what got you into writing? I mean, I understand what got you into running. What got you into writing?
So writing was more of, as I was discussing with you, it was a desire to share with my son that I have been vulnerable, in my youth. He has just entered that phase of life where he will have his share of ups and downs, mood swings, hormonal changes and all of that. And I don't want him to believe that going through that kind of, stress is wrong, or there is something wrong in having insecurities or, any kind of a fear of failure. It's all okay. And also the fact that it will come to a point where he will make mistakes. Advertently, inadvertently, I don't know, but he will make mistakes.
Sure.
I just wanted him to know all of that is natural part of anybody's evolution. So that was the desire. And when I started writing, I realized that it's so introspective. It is something that connects to yourself. It clarifies so many things in your mind. When you write, you really have to get into the groove. Think about all the incidents. What are the messages coming out of it? What was the larger implication? I always say that, humans are typically meaning-making machines. As humans, we like to make meaning of everything that's happening around us. Every incident, every conversation, every interaction, every single thing that's happening around us, we want to put a meaning to it.
Sure.
And as the authors of our own life, we are free to make it, interpret it the way we want to. When I started writing for this reason, I started thinking that, I have a way of looking at life in a very different perspective now. When things were happening around me, I was going through the motion. But now, in hindsight, when I look back and start to make sense of it, things become so much more real.
Sure.
And that feeling was very liberating. Sure. I never thought that after having written one book, I'll write it again, because that was for a purpose. But now I'm writing for the purpose of writing, because I love writing. It just brings me closer to myself.
Sure. So I have a very different. I love asking this question from people because it's very, interesting to get that perspective. I have had a very different reason for when I began writing. I was running a digital marketing agency at the time.
Yeah.
We were the official social media agency for a couple of political parties. We had done a lot of election campaigns and everything. And somebody asked me to write a telltale.
Okay.
And I have stories. I can't say them on camera.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even say them without camera, but I have stories. So somebody asked me to write a telltale. I started, writing. I wrote 2 pages and I said, I'm not a gossip queen, man. This is not going to happen. And then, very interestingly, at that point of time, it kind of struck me. I came from a reasonably humble background, went to Delhi College of Engineering, went to the US, studied there for worked there for almost 7, 8 years. I was part of IBM corporate headquarters at that point of time. Came back to India, started an agency business, and then got into this political myriad of everything that was going on. And I thought I have very interesting perspectives to give to the world. So I wrote my first book, called it India Vision.
Yeah.
And then when I started mental health work, I needed to tell people I understand mental health. Because everybody's question was, how do you know about mental health? You don't have a degree.
Yeah.
Nor do you acknowledge having gone through any mental health experiences of your own.
Yeah.
So I actually authored my second book, which was around mental health. And just recently, 3 months back, released my third book. The third book is probably, the most interesting one now, because that's my philosophy in life.
Okay.
In how I do various different things. So it's always very interesting to hear from people on how did they get into writing.
Yeah. For me, there was a trigger. So I was actually running a full marathon. Full marathon, as you know, is 42.2 kilometers, right? So I said, let me do something different this time. I said that at each kilometer, I will reflect upon what life used to be at that numerical age. Whatever little bit of memories I have of that time.
And you must have been around 42 at that point.
I was 36 at that time.
36.
I'm 42 today. So I was 36 at that time, and 8th kilometer came in. I vaguely remembered what I used to be doing when I was 8 years old, and so on and so forth. I continued. By the time I reached 36 kilometers, I realized that there was a problem with the strategy. What do I do with the last 6 kilometers? There is nothing to think about. I have reached my age as of today. Sure. So that's the time when I started reflecting upon all that I had thought through that run, and I felt like there was this phase of life, the 16-year-old kid that comes in the book that I've authored. That is the memory which I was like really, really cherishing. I remember that I was actually smiling at times when I was running. People might have thought that I was going insane. You don't smile and laugh when you're running all by yourself. But I was doing that. There was a time when I was actually weeping when I was running, because those memories were coming so strongly back to me. There is a very small incident I'll share with you, which is there in the book and which kind of lays the foundation of this entire book, Chasing the Horizon. So I told you I used to be bunking classes and doing all of that kind of not so sincere stuff. So in one of the exams, I scored 2 marks out of 25, by far the lowest in the class. The second lowest I very clearly remember was 11 out of 25. I was like devastated. That was the first of its kind of an embarrassment for me. 2 out of 25, come on, think about it. I went back home. I did not have the guts to look at the paper. I later in the night took the answer sheet and went to the washroom, locked it from inside, and then looked at the sheet. What happened? I totaled it. What came out was that it was totaling up to 2.5. Obviously not a big difference. 2 and 2.5 out of 25 are equally miserable. But as an innocent young kid at that time, I decided that I'm going to go back to the teacher and ask for this totaling mistake to be corrected. I did that the following day. I went to the teacher. I said, ma'am, there is a totaling mistake in this. It is not 2. It is, you check it for yourself. She counted it. There were 5 half marks that I had, secured in different questions. So she checked orally, mentally she checked it. She was confused when she ended up doing the totaling. She looked at me and I just smiled. She again checked. It still came out to 2.5. She said, how much is it? I said, I'm 2.5. Now she was confused. What am I supposed to be doing with this? So she tore the sheet. She just tore the sheet. And that's the point when I actually cried when I was running. That still hurts me. She should not have torn the sheet. I was not asking for any grace marks. As inconsequential as it might have been, it was my half a mark. I had written something in the answer sheet which was my mark. You are no one to decide whether I should be asking for it or not. So she tore the sheet. And that's the tipping point. I went back to my father that day and I cried and I told him I got really embarrassed. It was, as luck would have it, was 11:45 a.m. in the class and everybody was shouting that Sardar pagal ho gaya 12 baje. Asking for a 2 to be made 2.5. It really hurt me. It really, really bothered me. So my papa, always very simple, very, very, very supporting. He said, we will fix it. Don't worry. He said, when is the JEE exam? It was about 14 months from there on. He said, we'll get into the IITs and we will go back to this teacher. I kept that torn sheet as a prized possession, very dear to my heart, very close to my heart. I still have it. After the JEE exam got over, I got a rank of 560. I made it into IIT Delhi. Completed the board exams, everything. The schooling is over now. One fine day, I went back to that school teacher in those same days, I said, ma'am, there is something that we need to settle and close out. She said, what is it? I said, this totaling mistake needs to be fixed. She kept staring at me, and she realized what she had done was not the right thing to do. She was like, first she got a little emotional, then she got a little upset, and then she picked up her pen, she cut off that 2, she wrote 2.5, and she said, Ki wherever you go in life, I'll be cheering for you right here. And that to me was the onset of a new journey for myself. So that's what this book is all about. So the larger point being that when you connect with your memories, when you start to demystify them, when you start to think about them in hindsight, things become very clear. I mean, I am glad that she tore that sheet. Had it not been for that tearing of sheet, I wouldn't have been sitting here with you. I would have been somewhere doing some usual mediocre stuff.
That's one of the things that I always say as well. All the wrong and the bad that you go through in your life, it better be the prep for something big that you will create for that.
But the bigger point also is that it will not become evident to you in that moment.
Exactly. Absolutely.
It will become evident to you with the luxury of hindsight.
Absolutely.
15, 20 years down the line, now I know that I am so grateful to the higher power that she tore that sheet, and she is a good friend now. I mean, I am not saying with any negativity. Amongst all the teachers that I have been with across my schooling and college life, she is the only one with whom I have been in touch.
Still keep in touch.
And in a positive way.
Yeah.
And we have that mutual respect. And I attribute a lot of my success today to her. But yeah, that's how it is.
So I remember back in 2009, when my 2 ex-founders did some fraud and whatever and ran away, and I was bankrupt and figuring out what to do in life. There were a few people that connected with me at that point of time who just wasted time. Who will meet me every 2 days, who will tell me how they will get this millions dollars worth of business for me, and they were really doing nothing. And I very clearly, even today, think of those as people that kept me going.
Yeah.
They never got me a penny of business. But if they were not there, and that false belief that something will happen was not there, I probably would have, at that time, would have probably shut down the agency and probably moved into a job or done something, or probably moved back to the US at that point of time. But those 3-4 people
Correct.
who will accomplish nothing for me, accomplished probably the biggest thing for me, which was keeping me on track.
Yeah.
It was just giving me the power and that belief that something will turn around.
But that realization would have come in much later, right?
Much later, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that is what writing does to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It clarifies a lot of things in my mind and kind of gives me the guiding light for what I need to do from here on. So going back to the question, why do you write?
Now I'm in the middle of my next big venture. Probably, from that day till today, this is probably the biggest thing I've done.
Yeah.
And I'm still in the same situation. There are a bunch of people that keep wasting time every day.
Yeah.
And now that realization is there.
Yeah.
So I say it's okay. One of these people is going to come through.
Yeah.
The other will just keep giving me the belief that something is changing.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So Sundeep, it has been wonderful asking you questions. Now what I want to do is to move into faster questions.
Okay.
Let us do a rapid fire round.
T20, yeah?
T20.
Sure.
No fluff, no filters. Just questions and what comes to your head.
Correct.
One myth about mental wellness that you would want to destroy.
Mental issues are typically a sign of weakness. A lot of people believe that. I want to change that.
One book that changed your neural wiring.
It's called The Fountainhead. It was
Okay.
written by Ayn Rand.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you read it.
I'm an engineering student, so of course I think it's probably a mandatory course in engineering colleges, at least in our times.
Yeah. This is one book that created a bias for action.
Okay.
So there are people who do things, there are people who say things. To me, it signified that that shift towards doing is more important than saying. So this actually helped shape my neural thinking, my wiring, my DNA, and all of that.
So running in Delhi's air, bold or reckless?
Reckless. Definitely reckless.
Okay. Yeah. So if you had to do it differently, what would you do?
Go indoors.
Indoors.
Or be selective with the timing.
So it's like, I watched this movie. It was about this plane crash in Hudson River, and the pilot was first grilled for, did you cause this and all that. And at the end of it, the pilot was asked, if you had to do it differently, what would you do?
Yeah.
And he said, I was just to choose a different month.
Yeah.
It was way too cold in Hudson at this point of time.
Correct. You can be smart about it, right?
Right.
October to Jan is not the time to be running in outdoor air.
So I remember, so when I came back from the US, which was way back in 2007, and I looked at other people. Everybody used to plan their holidays and vacations to India by looking at fog
Yeah,
and by looking at heat.
yeah.
Now the first thing that I hear from people is looking at pollution time.
I have been doing it for the last 5 years. I don't celebrate Diwali in India.
Yeah, most people are doing exactly.
Me, my wife, my kid, my parents, my parent-in-laws, the 7 of us, we move out of India for 2 weeks. We disappear. And we come back only when things start to settle down a little bit. So you can be smart about.
So I
once
guess,
you understand the challenge, just work around it.
so I guess Delhi's new travel season will be February to April.
Yeah. It has to be. It has
It's
to be.
fog, summer, pollution, and there is this short window between February to
Correct.
March. Actually, April gets a little hotter itself.
Yeah, March is ideal. Yeah.
The one truth that people don't want to hear about ESG.
I think it is possible to be doing harm to the society at large, even when you have good ESG scores. And why I say that is because scores can be managed. It is a template. There are a set of questions, and you need to just plan your responses and your actions in a way that you look good on that template. But actual shift happens when you move beyond optics. Optics and ethics don't necessarily go hand in hand. I think that's one truth which I believe is a bitter pill to swallow, but it is true. Optics and ethics don't go hand in hand, and good optics is not necessarily good ethics.
Mental health in the boardroom, overhyped or overdue?
I think overdue. It is definitely overdue. It is time that we recognize that this is as critical as any of the other challenges we talk about. Some organizations have started doing that in a big way. I am myself, in addition to my ESG role, I am the health and well-being champion for sponsor for the entire organization in India, 10,000 of us. But at large, if you look at the corporate world, I don't think it has gotten its due share. It is still something which is talked about but not really actioned. So overdue is in my opinion, something that we need to think about.
One of the things that I'm seeing in that regard is, and I'm having a lot of mental wellness related conversations all across, organizations have now started talking about mental health, even if many of them are talking about it from a checkbox perspective. But the one area where I see organizations significantly struggling and having the same kind of stigma that used to be there for mental health earlier is addiction. No, I mean, when I go to organizations and I say, along with the mental wellness work I do, we also have a de-addiction program. At least in corporates, the answer is, if you're doing a workshop here, you're not going to say addiction. Nobody in our, either people in our organization are not addicted, or we don't want to know.
Yeah. Staying ostrich blind doesn't help, right?
Yep.
You have to face it.
Absolutely.
You have to face it. And you can bluff the world, but don't bluff yourself.
Absolutely.
Is the way I put it.
Absolutely.
Say whatever you want to say, but when you go to the washroom and look yourself in the mirror, just be brutally honest to yourself. I think that's the starting point. A lot of people are not able to do that as well.
And I think the meaning of addiction in itself, in this particular scenario, needs to alter. It is no longer, it should not be talked about as this substance that you are taking that is going to push you to death. It needs to be talked about as this habit that you have, which even if it is harmful, you can't avoid. It's not about, whether you do it every day, whether you do it every week, whether you do it every hour, whether you do it every minute. But that one habit that you can't avoid, even when it is harmful to you and your life. It's like as simple as that. And then a lot of it starts to come in. A lot of the, gaming, a lot of the gambling, a lot of the screen addiction, a lot of the shopping addiction, a lot of the porn and, other addictions, a lot of eating disorders, all of that starts to come within the realm of what was traditionally thought about as, drugs and alcohol and tobacco.
And it's not easy. It's not easy. You talk about eating disorders, right? I have had eating disorder till 2013. I couldn't stop binging. I couldn't stop the junk, the chips and the fried food and the aerated drinks and all of that. I remember, as I was saying, it starts from within. First step is acknowledgement, and then the intent to do something about it, and then willingness to ask for help when you need to. All of this is like, again, that same envelope which moves outwards, starting from within. When I decided that I want to get rid of these kind of eating habits, I remember it was so difficult to break the cycle, because tongue has a craving that is so difficult to get rid of, especially if you belong to a Punjabi culture where all the more you're brought up on food and all of that stuff. I remember doing a funny thing back in the day. I said that The harm happens when the food goes inside, and the joy comes when it lands on the tongue. So why don't I try this? I'll chew it and spit it out. Let's enjoy the taste and see if that works. Of course, it doesn't work, but at least there was an intent, and I was willing to at least do something unusual to break that cycle. But it's the same thing. I mean, acknowledgement and then the intent to work on it, and then willingness to ask for help when you need to is the way it works.
I was once talking to the F&B head at OYO, who was responsible for putting a lot of F&B programs for OYO, and he was saying his job was to chew food, actually not even chew in some cases, was to taste food and spit it out. And he said, you can't eat so much of crap all day. It just doesn't work. So he had to eat, chew, and spit it out. Like what, normally wine drinkers and alcohol tasting companies would do.
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. So, Sundeep, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a very interesting conversation. I'm sure the audience hearing it would have as much fun as I did while asking the questions. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on Truth Shots with Kapil Narratives and Neuron series.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure, I hope you had fun doing it as well.
It was mutual. I loved
any
every bit of
last
conversation.
thoughts that you want to leave our audience with?
I think one thought that I do want to leave everyone with is that invest in finding your purpose. Invest time in finding what really excites you. That will give so much joy and purpose to your life. Every minute of what you do will become meaningful for you. So if you don't already know what really excites you, what really motivates you, invest some time in that. That is the only thing that I would recommend my listeners, my readers, my audiences to really think about. Otherwise it's a rut, and we need to break that rut as quickly as possible.
So have a purpose-driven life.
Have a purpose-driven life.
Thank you so much for that, Sundeep.
Thank you.
So Sundeep, thank you so much for being part of the show. Here is a certificate of appreciation, certificate of veracity, as we call it from our side.
Thank you so much.
We found everything you shared as, being extremely open, as being, true to the heart. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I loved it.
Here is a small gift pack from our side, the Soul Calmness Hamper.
Thank you so much.
You seem fairly calm, but I hope you are able to use some of it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Very
much.
kind of you. Thank you.